Introductions on the screen. Oh, there's a picture. David Forte. Can you hear me okay, David?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. And David's from the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. I've been working with him for over a year now. He's part of that group, and we'll get to him right away. Representative Andrew Engel is in the back of the room. Representative Hunter Abell was supposed to be here tonight, but he had to go over to East Wenatchee for something tonight. I did have Senator Short here earlier today talking on some topics, and it included our discussion about tonight as well. I've got one fire commissioner north, I believe, Skip Wells. Hey, Skip, there you go. And then Georgia Davenport right here. So over there is Ashley. She's our retention and recruitment coordinator. And then Damien, if you want to introduce yourself, and Ellen.
Yeah, I'm Damien Ramirez, Ellen Sternage. We're with Country Financial, just a local insurance company. And, it's nice to know that this is being recorded and the insurance commissioner's here, so we got to be careful about what we're saying, right? So, no, we're just here to be down here to try to answer some questions and hopefully help out where we can and see how this all goes.
And then also up north, I've got Dee Schmidt, my administrative assistant, Deandra Schmidt, my administrative assistant. She's working the other end for me tonight as well. She's off camera. So.
She waved.
Oh, did she? Okay. I didn't catch that. So, and then just as a side note, why Country Financial's here, I've been working with Ellen quite a bit for several years. I mean, I've known her for a long time. But working several years on this issue, and I'll be one of the first to pose a question when we get to that spot of her, and Damien both. So I welcome them both.
Thank you.
First up, David, if you could kind of give us an overview of what's going on with both the WSRB, the wildland risk, your involvement in all of this, other than us pulling you in all the time.
Yeah, so we're talking about property classification codes when we're talking about WSRB. So WSRB is the Washington Survey and Rating Bureau. It's a Washington domestic company that provides statistical information to the insurance industry. What has been a concern to many of the fire chiefs around the state is the methodology on how they create property classification codes. What property classification codes are supposed to tell the insurance industry is the local fire district's capabilities to suppress structure fires. Not necessarily wildland fires entering the built environment, but your kitchen fires, electrical fires, the normal course of fires that happen. The fire chiefs came to the commissioner about a year and a half ago to express their concerns. The commissioner at that time stood up a small kind of a task force work group, so the fire chiefs could hear directly from WSRB some of the reasons of their methodology. At the same time that was occurring, the current insurance commissioner was campaigning across the state. She was listening to the fire chiefs express to her the difficulties that they have in the accuracy of that methodology. The chiefs expressed that it fails to kind of stay up to date with modern fire protection technologies and methods. And so she also attended those workshop meetings in the fall of 24. When she was eventually elected commissioner, and when she was sworn in, she expressed to agency staff that she's not confident in the credibility of that methodology. And so the legislature has asked us to do a study on the current methodology of how they are rating these property classification grades. Now, The rating, just so you're aware, is between 1 to 10, 1 being best, 10 being worst. And there's some subcategories, so there's about 14 buckets. And how the insurance industry uses that, they use it two ways. The first way is in rate making. So they'll take a portion of your fire premium. Now, your premiums are created from a series of 30 or 40 different rating factors. One of them relates to fire, not wildfire, but just regular fire. And a component in that is what your property classification code is, because it's supposed to tell how capable your fire district is of suppressing the fire, of reducing the damage, of reducing the amount the insurance company has to pay. So that's one way. The other way that they use the score is in what's called underwriting. It's their internal decisions on whether they're going to cover or not cover a property. And this is one of the ways that it's very concerning to our current commissioner, because on the rate side, the insurance companies submit the data to support the classification. So, but on the underwriting side, it is very concerning because there could be some people that are not eligible for insurance for some insurance companies if they have a 9 or a 10. And there are some districts, maybe in Stevens County, I'm not sure, but there are some fire districts where the fire truck can pull up right in the middle of the road. On one side of the street, it's a 4, which is eligible for coverage. On this other side of the street, it's a 9, ineligible for coverage. And the fire truck's going to be in the same spot fighting either of the fires. So the commissioner is very concerned. She's also very concerned about the use of public money trying to chase this property classification code rating. So we are in the midst of trying to identify people to help us uncover what is a proper methodology to be able to grade a fire district's capabilities to suppress structure fires. We're meeting with people next week just on this very topic. And then the second part of our assignment is to uncover if there's a better way, a more data-driven way, a more metrics analytical way to assess a fire department's capabilities. Now, we can't make an insurance company use the data, but we want to make it available to them because we believe insurance companies should use the most accurate, timely data available to them so that they can make proper decisions. I think that's it, Chief, unless you got follow-ups.
We're going to touch on this as we move forward, but can you differentiate between the WSRB system and what's happening in wildland, please?
You bet. So that's WSRB is property classification codes. Now we have a whole other world. It's called wildfire risk scores. Wildfire risk scores are created by huge global data analytic companies. These are companies like CoreLogic. You maybe have heard of them in the financial sector. VeraRisk, which is a insurance-related data company. Moody's, RMS, kind of a financial risk management company. And there's some new ones coming on board called Zesty AI, and the AI is artificial intelligence. And what these entities do, mostly from satellite imagery, and is to create a wildfire risk score at the property level. And so the state's going to learn more about this on July 15th as we have invited the top 3 wildfire risk score companies to come talk to a working group talking about wildfire mitigation standards. And so we're going to be able to hear directly from them what they're doing. what they've reported to us in past interviews is they look at fuel load, vegetation, slope, historic winds, and they create a number for each property. Now, what the insurance company does, and something to keep, it's really important to understand that each insurance company is different. They have a different appetite for risk. So company A will receive the number and they'll write guidelines to say, okay, let's just say 1 to 100. They're not, some of them are 1 to 30, some of them are, they're all different, but let's just say 1 to 100. So if the wildfire, and 100 being the highest risk. So let's say that one's 80. An insurance company might say, we're not going to take new business of an 80, but we're going to keep renewing our current business if it's an 80. Another company might say, no way, we're not taking any 80s. We're only going to take 65 or lower. And then there are some companies in our market that don't even consider wildfire risk at all in their underwriting. So that's how so each company is uniquely different. That's why in your communities, when people are being non-renewed and they're being canceled, they have to go look for it. But if they look for it, we have about 100 companies writing property insurance. There are companies out there that are going to be able to provide coverage. Now, for everybody, it's gotten really expensive across the whole state, but especially in what the insurance companies feel are wildfire high-risk areas. So we are also noticing in certain communities more non-renewals and cancellations. It's not a statewide issue. It is very much a localized issue. A little bit in your community. I know you guys are definitely feeling it, but a lot in the Wenatchee, Ellensburg, and Cle Elum areas too. They're getting hit quite hard. So wildfire risk scores, they're very different than the property classification codes. There is no ability right now that we know of to appeal a wildfire risk score. Part of the working group is to make a recommendation to the legislature on what type of disclosures the insurance companies should provide if they're considering your eligibility for coverage based on a wildfire risk score. What should you know? And our insurance commissioner feels that the insurance industry should inform you of what they consider your wildfire risk is and steps you could do to lower your wildfire risk score. So again, we're going to be going through that process in the work group, and at some point, I'm going to hope to be able to share the web page address for it because we're accepting public comment. If you want to follow along, all of the meetings are going to be recorded. They're going to be on our local public access, tvw.org. And I'm happy to give Chief Boosie all the information to be able to share with you folks.
Absolutely, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question, and it comes up with a lot of people that I talk to, the issue with older manufactured homes. Where people can't sell them, people can't buy them because they're over 30 years old. They're in high wildfire locations. Our appetite has changed. We're not writing anything that's over 20 years old or over 30 years old. So there's a lot of concern with that. I know there's nothing you can do with insurance companies other than some companies, if you try to force them, like we've had them that say, we're non-renewing because we're getting out. There's too much exposure.
Yeah, so we have companies that are so they're not leaving the market. What they're doing is they're identifying their highest 1 to 2% of risk in their books, and those are the ones that they're non-renewing. They're not going out and looking at the homes. They are relying on this wildfire risk score to tell them what that is. And I'll just add, when we speak to these risk modelers, they don't update Washington very often. once every 2 years. And so there, any work that folks are doing in communities to mitigate, we have strong concerns that they're not being reflected. I will say that manufactured home, mobile homes, that is the canary in the coal mine in our property insurance market. The communities that are starting to see those impacted the most is really, we're concerned that following that is going to be more stick-built homes. One thing that, though, I want to make everybody aware of is the insurance commissioner created an insurer of last resort. So if folks cannot find coverage in the regular market, they can apply for the Washington Fair Plan, FAIR, and it does not consider wildfire risk as an eligibility. You still have to pass basic underwriting, meaning the home can't be completely dilapidated. It has to be running water and heat and a roof. But if wildfire risk is what's causing folks not to find coverage, that's an avenue for them. And as our producer in the room from Country Financial knows, anytime that an insurance company sends a non-renewal or a cancellation, they also have to include the Fair Plan information on there. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but I agree with you. Manufactured homes right now are having a very difficult time.
Isn't the Fair Plan very hard to deal with on a new purchase?
So a fair plan to deal with a new purchase. So it was designed to satisfy a mortgage. So the mortgage, their insurable interest is the unpaid principal of the loan. And so if it would depend if the unpaid principal is greater than the market value of the property. That's really where it may not be the best tool. I'll say the Fair Plan isn't a great policy. I'll get a little technical. It's not replacement cost coverage. It's ACV coverage. But it does have a coverage limit of 1.5 million. I will say this, the one benefit here in Washington State is the insurance commissioner created the Fair Plan. So we don't have to wait to legislative sessions to make changes if we need to do things with it. And so it's important if people can share with me, especially all of the producers in the room, what the Fair Plan needs to do to better serve the community. Because we would be very interested if we need to amend it to better serve everybody, we would be willing to do that.
The Fair Plan won't work for a new purchase when there's a lender that requires replacement costs, though. They won't accept ACV.
So I don't understand. So I worked in this space a little bit. I represented banks. I would really challenge a bank that needs replacement cost coverage because they don't have the insurable interest in replacement cost.
That's what we're dealing with.
I'm sorry. Maybe Chief Boosie can give you my number and my contact and see if I can give you some language to help the lender understand what their insurable interest is.
How is the ACV determined?
So it's replacement costs less depreciation. So if it's going to be a very, very you use depreciation on tangible items, so it would be like the roof or the walls or the floors, and then you would take what would be the useful life of that and then subtract the age from it.
Is that just for mobiles or is for all?
No, that's for all property.
So they're depreciating rather than appreciating with our home values?
So this is a good point, and I want see if I can be clear with how you do your insurance coverage is not based on the market value of your home. How you do your insurance coverage is what would it cost to completely replace your property if it was completely destroyed. And this is where some folks that have had wildfire losses find themselves underinsured. But really the measure that you want to work with your agents and brokers is, what do we think it would cost to, if my house is completely gone, to fully rebuild it? That's the insurance coverage that you want to get. And then, so there is where you take replacement costs, less depreciation, to find what's called actual cash value.
So I got a question. The WSRB protection class, the way that it is set up, it looks like it's mostly for like local fire departments. Forgive my ignorance if I'm not understanding that right. Okay, so in the area that I live, we have a lot of volunteer fire. They do an awesome job with the small little fire departments that they have. But we also have really awesome support from the DNR in our area. And so when there's a fire that happens, if it's a wildfire or if it actually happened on somebody's property that was covered in a fire district, they're pulling water out of the river and putting it out. They're really helping a lot. And so when you're looking at that WSRB, is somebody looking at the additional resources that we have in the state that are helping us?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Chief Boosie's probably the expert on what WSRB methodology does and doesn't do. But I can share that it's been told to us that there appears to be an unfairness between urban and rural communities built into the methodology. And so I think Chief Boosie can answer that, but my understanding is no, that probably would not be considered.
Okay.
And I'll back that up. That's absolutely true. So the state fire chiefs has a WSRB committee where we sit and try to make some changes. And this dates back. There's a little subcommittee going on right now that I'm also a part of. We try to get wildland in to the WSRB protection class. And we actually got rated on it in 20. It's in the report. We got 100%. But they don't recognize it, and they claimed, their CEO claimed in a King 5 interview last year that their clients don't want it, so they don't provide that information to them. Although their clients are sucking up the wildland risk side. So no, they don't take into wildland into account on WSRB. We've tried that approach. I think what happened in a vacuum, somebody's going to fill that void, and these other risk companies have been doing that, and I don't know the behind the scenes stuff. What ends up happening for us for all these years, we've tried to work with WSRB, making changes. We try to buy equipment, spend your tax dollars appropriately. My philosophy is, let's take care of you guys, the WSRB rating will follow. And ours has dropped a little bit over time, and we're up for a rating. They'll be here in October. But we've concentrated on that, and then all of a sudden the wildland fire risk popped up that nobody was looking at, and all of a sudden we're way behind the schedule, where at least WSRB, we're talking with somebody that we can make some inroads. We've got the OIC involved. The wildland risk thing, just started popping up a few years ago, in all honesty. Heavy, it might have been out there lingering.
Yeah.
None of us saw it coming, but here it is. So I hope that answers the basics of it.
It does, although my other concern is that a lot of, my specific property is right next to 200 acres of BLM land that nobody has done anything with, and it truly is a fire hazard. And so then how do you handle something like that? Because I can't get insurance because of all of those situations.
Well, I can share with you that there is mitigation science being developed right now by an insurance industry-backed research institute that the insurance industry believes will make homes insurable. and it's called the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, IBHS. They have a program called Wildfire Prepared Homes. It is in California and Oregon right now. And we part of this working group is to learn more about that, to see if it's applicable in Washington State. There could be a pathway for mitigation to make you more insurable. And it's going to focus on your structure and then rings around your house going out to maybe 50 feet.
The problem we have in Washington, and you read some of the pages, and a wildfire here, insurance costs here, people want to complain about forest management, okay? And a lot of blame goes towards Washington State, but we have a ton of federal lands. And federal land philosophy is a lot different than DNR philosophy. Now, DNR is behind the curve, and Commissioner Franz did a great job trying to move that forward. And Commissioner Davenport and I are setting up a meeting with the new Commissioner of Public Lands. He's going to actually come out and visit us here. We're going to hopefully take him a little tour. But the federal property is a big problem. They really don't have the resources, but they have a different philosophy on management versus natural growth.
Right.
So, and I'll say a lot of times, probably to a degree, the federal government, the Forest Service gets a rap. There'll be a fire way out in the middle of nowhere, their lands, they let it burn because that's the natural progression. Well, then the Washington winds and weather hit, and it gets out of control, and by the time it's time to corral that, resources are thin, so it takes a lot longer. So it's a balance. I wouldn't want a forestry job. We were talking earlier about defensible spaces and all that kind of stuff, and I'm all for it. I'm a fire guy. I'm here when defensible space fails. And it inevitably will, no matter how well you manage a forest, there's going to be a problem. But it's something that I put on their radar, along with leftover slash after logging that never gets cleaned up. I see that a lot, and that causes us probably more problems than just overgrowth.
Yeah, sure. So, well, thank you. I really appreciate, your feedback, and, I just wanted to spotlight some of the issues that I'm running into personally. But I do appreciate everything that you're doing. And so thank you for putting this on, and thank you for being there and answering all these questions for us. I think it's a great community thing that you're doing, and so thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. And like I try to tell people, this is what we're here for, and we're just as frustrated as you are. I mean, I live in the community. Fortunately, I'm okay at the moment on the insurance level. But that's why we spend the time to do this. It's easy to sit here and wait for a fire to occur, but we're trying to be proactive, not only within the district, but within the state, the OIC, and we've got a great friend of the OIC, and David's been a huge part of this, at least, about a year and a half now, I think I met up with you or something like that. So he's been phenomenal. I think he froze. He's like, not sure. But the other thing you have to understand too, everybody wants something done now. And I have to defend the OIC a little bit because for a long time they dealt with your auto insurance, health insurance complaints, and scenes, and we have put them in the spotlight all of a sudden. Something that they're not quite used to. Their office isn't as big as other state agencies, so they're trying to adapt to this as well. And they've done a great job in communicating and meeting. They meet all the time. I said, hey David, can you be a part of this tonight? There he is. So they've been really responsive. It's just going to take some time to get some of this through. There's stuff I don't know about is that now he's got some more information on, and that's why we want to do this. Everybody at Station 2 have a question, Dee?
Anybody? Yeah. Yes, we have a question.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you can
give us any places to look in terms of preparing defensible spaces for our own homes before this program that's available in California and Oregon comes to Washington? What can we do now to prepare our homes and properties to avoid wildfire damage?
Well, you can do the mitigation now and be able to tell your insurance company that you've met these standards. What they're doing in Oregon and Washington is they're actually training people to go to homes to certify it, to provide a report to the insurance industry that the home meets the standards. But for you now, there is nothing that would prohibit you from doing the work and telling your insurance company that you've met the standards and to provide them the proof of that. I don't know how I can show you right now. I could pull up the website and show you the address pretty quick. Give me 2 seconds here.
Would that be for what the standards are?
Well,
And here we go.
show you here, so.
And so if you were to go to wildfireprepared.org, that would take you to where the insurance industry is heading towards their mitigation standards. I will say there are a lot of great community mitigation resilience programs happening right now in the state. Some of it's through the Department of Natural Resources community resilience programs. They're very active in your area. I think the first step is really to have your community create kind of a resilient mindset. And then step 2 would be for you as an individual property owner to begin thinking about how do you harden your own structure. And this is, let me see if I can find a real simple graph, but what they're talking about is mostly about, I don't know if that's showing up,
Yep.
but mostly it's about the orange section is the retrofit. So this would be mostly designed to stop windblown embers. So what the insurance industry data has shown from all the fires in Hawaii and California and Colorado and New Mexico and Washington State and Oregon is that if a home ignites in a wildland fire, 95% of the time it's going to be completely destroyed. And so the goal for the mitigation is to prevent wind-driven embers to ignite the home. And that would include Class A roofs, covering the gutters, having 1/8 size mesh for your attic and your roof and your basement vents. And then it's what's really difficult and it's hard for us to adapt to is this 0 to 5 feet zone where there's nothing combustible. And that's really difficult. But in our working group that I'm going to let Chief Boosie know all about, and you guys, I hope you can follow along. We're going to have people come and talk about the kind of the myths around the costs and how maybe it's not so expensive as one may think to do these things. I will share also that the state insurance commissioner is very interested to see if the legislature would allow us to do a state-based grant program. Yep.
David,
Yes.
you cut out there for a little bit, so we lost it to 0 to 5 foot combustible zone.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's really difficult for most homeowners, myself included. That 0 to 5 feet of having a non-combustible space, I think that's the hardest part for us to kind of meet these standards. And the insurance commissioner is very hopeful that the legislature would consider allowing us to do grant programs to help homeowners mitigate and do this type of work. And so I hope you can follow along with the working group that we're going to be doing over July. there's going to be a lot of good information shared, and hopefully the members of that working group can provide recommendations that are going to help the insurance market and also your homes maybe mitigate against wildfire loss.
Thank you.
And as I was finishing up, before he came back, the WSU Extension did a presentation to the library. They did them all over the county, but I had and they have a whole list of plants and stuff that are fire resistant as well, that look good. You go, a lot further out and still have good looking property with these fire resistant plants. I worked with a gentleman the other day on the phone from Deer Lake. He's got a pole barn that's kind of in the way. He was worried about fire and all that. So I talked him through putting a PVC pipe, green pipe, along the top of the peak of his building, run it down, connect the hose to it, and he can leave, and it'll water the building because David's right. It's out. A lot of these fires start from embers. When a fire is really growing, it's spot fires out in front that really make that fire grow fast. Well, if those spots fall on into a community, spot fires are the biggest concerns during. It's not the stuff that's burning right in front of us. It's the spot fires that are being out in front of that fire. They're one of our main. Those are what lets much fire grow. That's why we despise them during those incidents. Anybody else in Station 2? Anybody else here?
I got a question.
Oh, we have a question.
Okay.
I live in a 55 plus mobile home park, and we're on a half-acre lot. And behind some of the property, you have at least a 50, 60 foot lawn, 40 foot lawn, all kept green. The requirements of the park is to keep your lawn green, keep all the brush off the trees. Well, right across the fence line is a total mess. And these people are getting cut off of their insurance because the other people won't clean up their mess. So, is there anything a guy could do about that?
That's a local. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think the only thing that right now that's available to you is to connect with your agent and brokers. There are entities out there called insurance brokers that have access to many 50 or so different insurance companies, and maybe they can help find better coverage for you. As I don't know if your local authorities, districts, or code officials can help you there, but that sounds like a really bad situation for you.
We get a lot of phone calls at the fire district about somebody else's property. You have to remember, Stevens County is all about property rights. Everybody wants to protect their property until there's a problem with somebody else's. But I know the county commissioners, it may not be at the top of their priority list, but it's been discussed to a degree how to handle mishandled properties, if you will. So my suggestion is talk to your county commissioner. Down here it's Monty Stobart. If it's Deer Lake, the north area, valley, then you're talking Mark Crowes, and then right down the north part of the county. But any of them will listen if you call, or if you send them an email. They answer their emails. So that's the best route to take. It is frustrating. We get a lot of calls on that. We have no enforcement authority whatsoever, so I can go out and go, yeah, that looks really bad, but there's not much we can do. So anything else up there?
Yes, I have a comment to make. We talked to our insurance company today, and we've been with them since 1974 down in the Columbia Basin and now up here at Deer Lake for 20 years with combined properties for a while. But they sent us a thing in the email. My wife wrote it down. It said, after the recent wildfires in our area, which resulted in significantly greater than expected loss ratios, insurance carriers in Washington have implemented heavy restrictions and requirements surrounding the risk factors for wildfire scores. The factor is separate from the fire protection score as found in the Washington State Rating Bureau. Fire protection class, like you talked before, was 1 to 10. The distance nearest to the fire hydrant, distance to the fire station, fire department's equipment and staffing. Wildfire scores, according 1 to 100, basically 50 and under is low risk, 51 to 60 is moderate, 60 to 80 is high, 81 plus is extreme. This system is based on proximity to vegetation, historical fire data, climate conditions, and topography. Homeowners insurance has become increasingly difficult to obtain. Carriers are canceling policies, declining new ones, and rising risks and driving up cost. Even homes that had no issues a few years ago are now struggling to get coverage. Now, this is my wife's personal statement to what we've had. We have a fire hydrant on the lot at Deer Lake next to our house. And the picture of the fire hydrant was given to our insurance company, but in '25 they doubled our fire insurance rates. But part of that is because the values have increased just because of the sales around us. But we have very, very little vegetation. We clear it up as best we can. But this is what our insurance company said. This is the response they got from the who they work with.
So that sounds like that's what your insurance agent sent you from
Yes.
speaking with the insurance company. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's very accurate the way that they phrased all of that. I do want to share though, the one thing about the cost of insurance. So we have the availability of insurance and we have the cost of insurance. Two principles to understand. The availability of insurance is based on the perception of the risk. And that's really what the insurance company is going to go through to determine whether they're going to provide coverage or not. The cost of insurance, how much we all pay, is directly related to the cost of claims. So and I'll share with you all, we have not had an increase in the frequency of the claims. We basically have the same number of homeowner claims in 2019 as we do in 2024. What has changed is the cost of those claims. So in 2019, the state's homeowners claims cost was $950 million for the entire state. All the insurance claims totaled $950 million. 2024, it's $2 billion. $2 billion, the same number of claims. And so that's what's caused all of our insurance costs to go up, is because how insurance companies collect premiums is they have to project years out how much money they need for the state of Washington to cover all of the claims. 2019, they needed $950 million. 2024, now they need $2 billion. And so I can share that it's stabilized, meaning we're not getting rate requests increases like we did in 23 and 24. It is stabilized. And so I don't think we're going back to 2019 pricing, but I don't think we're going to see the increases like we did in 23 and 24. We're hopeful now that it's stabilized that we can get some price competition back into the market, because really in 23 and 24 it was run on fear, afraid of going insolvent in Washington State, but they have the money now, they're stabilized. But I think what your agent emailed to you is accurate.
Yeah, the only other comment he made was that you don't ever want to cancel because you probably won't find another company to take you. So, and we've been with them 50 years, so we're happy with what they've done for us over the years. We haven't had any claims, but he said, don't ever cancel until you have something else in place, if that's your choice.
I think that's good advice. I will share with you, while you've been loyal to your insurance company, they won't, it's not two ways. So in the Gray Fire and the Oregon Road Fire, 35% of those people got canceled or non-renewed the year after the fire.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for David?
Yeah, I'd like to say that they categorized this area as a Zone 9 high-risk fire area. And I called up several insurance companies, about 4 or 5, and stuff to find out, because my insurance is almost doubled in the last 2 years for the house. And I was asking them, what their rates were to try and get a more reasonable rates, and they go like, well, we'll get back to you. They took my address, they took, my house is only 3 years old and stuff, and they go like, oh yeah, you're fire zone 9 and stuff like that. We can't insure you, and stuff. We're not even gonna write you up a quote and stuff. And so I was kind of curious about that, because I'm going like, well, if my acreage burns, but I've done all the fire mitigation around my house, I've got all my materials that the house is built out of, it's fire resistant, and all, I've done all this stuff. I got 3 hydrants on the property and stuff. I've got, gravel all the way around the house, 20 feet all the way around, no vegetation anywhere. I am cement, rock, and stuff, but yet, I'm in fire zone 9, so I've got to go ahead and pay whatever anybody else in this zone's paying and stuff, without them going and doing an individual, house by house case. Because there might be somebody that's 2 miles away from me that's got, cars and gasoline and everything all over around their property and stuff like that. And yep. I'm over here doing everything I can to go ahead and mitigate the fire stuff, but I'm paying just as much as the drunk driver is over here, and I haven't had a ticket in 15 years. How does that work?
It sounds like to me, when you say Zone 9, you're talking about your property classification code, and that goes back to WSRB.
Yes. It goes back to like the 1 through 10 fire risk in the area. I'm in this area, the zone of 9.
So basically 9 means you're unprotected by a fire district.
Where do you live?
I live just up here in Saddle Mountain. I'm about 15 minutes away.
You need to chit chat afterward.
Is there a physical map that somehow the insurance companies decided that we were suddenly in a fire risk? I mean, mine was canceled because suddenly I was in a fire risk, and all I got from my agent was they, but nobody could tell me who they are. And I have a fire hydrant in my front yard, and I'm 2 miles from the fire department.
So now that sounds like a wildfire risk score issue, not a WSRB issue. And that's what Chief was talking about. They're kind of new in the last, really since the 2017 Camp Fire down in California that destroyed the town of Paradise. These wildfire risk score models have becoming utilized by the insurance companies. And to me, it sounds like one of these risk score that the company used, and it's really disappointing they won't tell you who they use. I think this work group might want to make a recommendation on that type of disclosure for you, because all these companies use different wildfire risk scores. So if you don't like, let's just say they use ABC company, and ABC has you in an uninsurable area, well, maybe you can look for a company that uses XYZ risk score. And it won't be the same because they're all different.
My question is why do they bundle everybody without telling anybody that you're all of a sudden you're in this 150 mile square mile zone, and they don't tell you you're in that. And if you lose your insurance or unbeknownst to you, you decide to try and get other insurance and you cancel yours out, you're out. And they don't tell you that.
Yeah.
So they raise up your rates and they say, oh yeah, okay, they call up, okay, I'm going to go cancel you out because I'm going to go get some. Unbeknownst to you, you're in this high risk zone and stuff, and you've done all the right things and stuff. And I would like to have somebody come out to my house and say, oh yeah, you're safe, you're this and that, because if my property, I've got 24 acres, if my property burns up, it burns up. But I mean, what I'm insuring is my shop and my house. And I'm not insuring the 10,000 trees I've got on the property. So, you know, but if my house doesn't burn down and stuff, or if it's mitigated to a point, I would like to be able to at least get insurance or have somebody even say, oh yeah, well, despite you're in zone 9, you've got a safe piece of property, we'll insure you. But that's not happening.
That's
Real
right.
quick, one of the problems is they wanted it implemented, they did a blanket.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And it's unfair. I think
Yes.
it's an unfair practice of commerce. We'll touch on that in just, towards the end of the town hall. I've already addressed it with our reps, but we'll bring it up, towards the end of this. Again, I've got people around me getting canceled or rate increases and mine staying pretty darn stable.
I've had to pay the high premiums because I can't stop my insurance. If I
After
do,
this-
I won't get any other
So,
insurance.
we'll check what your actual rate, again, I have access to WSRB's website.
Okay.
So I can check each individual.
Well, they claim I'm at 9, and I've talked to several companies.
Again, we'll check how
Okay.
far. So, we'll talk it, make sure you see me after this.
Okay.
Anybody else?
So the one thing I would say about that is, it makes me wonder if you wanted to sell your home, if you had a real estate agent that you were working with to try to sell your home, there is nothing on the disclosure forms that I'm aware of that even says anything about the WSRB or the wildland risk when you're purchasing a piece of property.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's a whole different issue when it comes, should have had a couple real estate folks visit too. But that's another issue as well on disclosure. But it should, not rightly so, but it should match up if those people are going for a mortgage too.
Okay, I'm an insurance agent, just to put that out there. So I work for an agency who writes with different carriers. And I'm here because I hate what's happening to my clients, and I hate the way all the rates go up, and I hate the fact that I get somebody in oh, you're in a protection class 9, this is gonna be terrible to find something. This is the thing. I think as far as the disclosures go, I think when your contract, when you have a real estate agent, there is a disclosure that if you cannot get insurance, that's an out for you.
There is within 5 days.
Yeah, just like,
5 days of making your
yeah,
offer.
just like,
They've got to find reasonable insurance.
Well, mine was raw land at the time, there was no house on it, so there
I
was
think,
no.
so I don't, so, yeah, I mean, your realtor should know. Now, I have a friend who is a realtor, and I tell her now too, because roofs have become a huge deal with insurance carriers right now too. Some of them don't want to insure a roof that's over 15 years old.
So a lot of what's happening, it started affecting the insurance agents. In fact, then it started affecting us, kind of at the same time. Now it's affecting the real estate market and careers as well. So this is the continued effect it's going to have, and it has a domino effect, and obviously has an huge economic effect. Because it's money we can't spend locally, it's got to go somewhere else. So that becomes a problem too, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later as well. And just to make the distinction perfectly clear, the gentleman was talking from Deer Lake about having a hydrant right out front. That's a WSRB thing. That has absolutely nothing to do with the wildland risk. I cannot, there are people in my profession that still mix the wildland and cancellations and premium increases with WSRB. And as much as I despise WSRB, don't tell them I said this, David.
They already know, Chief.
But this is not a WSRB problem fault. This is pure, matter of fact, these insurance companies have bypassed WSRB to increase these rates for wildland risk. And it is a blanket thing. There were 2 maps produced several years ago, one DNR, one Forest Service, on what they were trying to do was highlight risk areas so they could look at forest mitigation and allocate resources. Well, guess who got got a copy of those maps, because they were made public, there was nothing, but the insurance risk companies and the insurance companies got those. So that's why you may be in at the top of Saddle Mountain, you may be in a higher hazard according to DNR and the Forest Service as far as a resource thing, but it wasn't meant to get in the hands of the insurance companies either.
Well, Chief, I can share with you that those local Washington state maps are not at the resolution that the insurance companies use. These data analytic companies are down to 10 meters square with what they're considering how they're scoring properties. And so I would say DNR is currently trying to produce another hazard and risk map, and because of legislation requiring them to. But I can share with you, we know of no insurance company that's going to use a DNR risk map to do any of their own evaluations. They rely on these CoreLogix, VeriRisk, Moody's, these gigantic data analytic companies. And I will say that these models are based on historical statistics. They're not based on physics, and there's a difference with how the modeling works. With that, they're using statistical data and not forward-looking physics modeling. So it's a problem. It's a problem. The wildland risk scores are really driving a lot of your issues.
I just think that it's just that they bundle everybody into one category when you've got 50 different drivers and 50 different cars, and this guy hasn't had a ticket for 25 years, and this guy here's had.
Let's focus on the homeowner stuff.
Yeah, but that's just a.
I get it. Here's a problem though. If you want somebody to come out each property and visit, that's going to cost a ton of money too, because they're going to have to hire a ton of people to come out, and because those properties need not evaluated once, but continuously evaluated.
Yeah.
So there's a give and take. I think there's a solution to the wildfire issue, and I definitely believe there's a solution to WSRB at some point. And there's been some progress with the WSRB. And I don't know the status of the 7 mile thing. Can you touch on that?
The status with WSRB's?
The 7 mile rule.
Oh, they are modifying some of their scores to not be so hard, restrictive at the 5 mile border of a qualified fire station in a property. Right now, it's a very hard 5 mile line restriction. They are introducing a graduating scale out to 7 miles, which really they should have done a decade ago. So this isn't new. 47 other states have this graduating line. So it's not that they're creating anything new for Washington State. They're adopting stuff that other states have done to help with the grading.
Thank you. So that might help you if you're truly a 9. People up at Deer Lake in the Julius Road neighborhood up there, that actually stretches out to the Station 2 in Moon Lake and incorporates them. The mapping, it doesn't hit the Narrows, so from the Narrows, that's still an issue. But there is some progress being made out there. Like I said, it's slow. I think and I've repeated this to the State Fire Chiefs Association multiple times, is we really need to, we're working hard on WSRB, but we really need to focus on getting this wildland risk score, I don't want to say necessarily changed, but corralled, so that it's a lot more fair. Has anybody seen the video that we did, the 12-minute video that we posted on the insurance stuff? If you haven't seen it, it details a lot more of this. For WSRB, when they did the traditional protection class, right? Fire counts for 40% of the score. Water's 35, dispatch is 9, fire prevention's 16 if that adds up properly. But we're at the top, almost half. When you look at any of those wildland risk assessment companies, They take zero of our capabilities. So you could have a fire hydrant in your front yard. We're 5 minutes from an airport that houses 2 fire bosses and a Type 2 helicopter. We have 3 lakes that get drawn out of continuously, whether there's a fire in our district or not. None of that's taken into consideration. None of our agreements that we have with DNR is taken into consideration. None of our specialized wildfire equipment or gear or training is taken into consideration. I know a lot of you don't like the idea of Avista's planned power outage during a wildfire incident. That should count in our favor because that's a prevention method, right? Stevens County allows fireworks. That should count against us, to be fair. But there's a bunch of other mitigating factors, and they claim they're doing this because wildfires are getting worse. It's costing them more money. However, fire districts all over the state, all over the western states, are also getting better with this. We're just talking, in 2014, I had my first state mobilization fire here in the fire district. It was 1,000 acres off of 291. They called in a Type 2 team to run that fire for over a week. The following year in 2015, I had a 1,000-acre fire. They called a Type 2 team in to run that fire for a week. Last August, we had a 700-acre fire off of Corkscrew Canyon that we corralled in 5.5 hours. Yes, that was partly air support, but it was also the bulldozers, it was also the multitude of firefighters and the mutual aid that we received that day. No Type 2 team came in. They had a Type 3 team for a day or two until they got called out to another fire. That's the stuff they're not taking into account at all. At all.
So we had a lightning strike at my neighbor's property and stuff last September. And there was a small fire going just in the canyon down behind us and stuff on his property. There was DNR guys in there and stuff and firefighters in there, I'd say within 10 minutes. I mean, they came up through the gate, they came up my driveway, went right over to my neighbor's property, and they busted down in there and they had it out, like right now. And I was like, wow, I'm impressed. And
I appreciate you noticing that. We take pride in it.
yeah, it was quick. They were on it.
Attuned to that. On my phone now, I get texts. There's, I think, 6 or 7 cameras around the county, 5 that show my fire district. AI detects smoke. It texts me day or night. I get those early now. They don't take any of that into account. So, you know, if you can, our YouTube channel, it's at the top of our Facebook page, it's on our website. Take a look at that video. It's 12 minutes long. It breaks down the difference and the capabilities that we should be graded on. And you know, depending on time, we may be able to put it up on screen. Any questions at Station 2? Anything else here?
Any other questions? What do people do if they can't get insurance at all? They just take it for a loss if it happens?
David?
Yes, if you don't have insurance, if it's a major wildfire and it's a declared event, FEMA provided some individual assistance. The state has an individual assistance program, but neither of those two are going to provide enough resources to replace a property. It's just not that type of level of funding. So if you don't have insurance, you're at great financial risk.
Thank you.
I got another question. Our lot, the place we rent our lot from requires we have fire insurance. But if the insurance company drops your fire insurance, what do? Are you forced to move out, or?
Well, that's a real issue that's becoming possible and more apparent in our state. Yes, that is one of the deep concerns that we have, is the contractual obligations to have insurance. There are definitely other lines of business in other insurance products that are definitely feeling exactly that, where there is a contractual obligation to have certain liability coverages that the insurance market is not providing anymore.
So I got a question, and it's for Ellen.
Oh, no.
Ellen calls me a lot that I have a problem. And we talk about it. Sometimes it's a letter, sometimes it's a clarification. Ellen, and she'll call me back or email me a day or two later and said, I got this person insurance. What's that process? Because I'm always amazed that, of the amount of insuring you do.
Me too.
That's encouraging.
Just kidding. Well, no, I'm not, but you know, Mike.
Make sure you speak up.
So Mike will help me. I will call Mike. And if he sends me a letter, I can send that to my underwriters and they work. You know, you help me with Harada. I can be spared because she tells her Bamford agent. Mike helped me get a client that was a PC7, which was BS, sorry, down to a 4 because she's right there. So when I call you, and a lady you sent me, she was on the lake up there. She is surrounded by trees, but because of your letter saying that you get the water right out of there, they respected it and they accepted it and they let me put it through, even though she did have a lot of trees. So, you know, I didn't need it for that client you sent me that was nice. We both know, but you know, your letters do help. If you have a good relationship with your insurance agent like me, and I can call Mike. I've tried other fire commissioner people. They don't help you. You're really good.
Thank you.
But it really does make a difference.
There's a lot of times I send you somebody or you call and ask about something that you don't need a letter and they still get it. So there's still
We're pretty open-minded. I have to say, I deal with this a lot lately. And Country Financial is really open-minded. We understand rural. I'm a PC10. I'm his BFE. I mean, I'm in nowhere land, okay? Like, I'm Blue Creek, Blue Creek. Anybody knows what that is. And it was beginning.
That's Central Washington there?
Well, we're kind of. Well, we're between Twila and Colville. Yeah. But I'm way up in the hills. So, you know, when you're talking about where you live, I get it. I truly do. But I work hard for my clients, and I whine to my clients. I carry nippers in my car. I carry a tape measure in my car. I go up on Sunday. If your agent really cares about you, they're going to do all this. And I do. I carry nippers this big. I carry a handy dandy little chainsaw. I don't care. But, you know, you have to put the effort in. You've already put your effort in.
My insurance company also has a fire abatement program too, that if the fire department that's up there or fire services frontline guys are up there and they have permission, they will come in and spray my house down.
See, that's really
with the foam and stuff, and they will cut down any trees or anything that looks like it might be a threat to the property.
Yeah.
That's from the insurance company.
And that's really cool. Our country has an act. We haven't started doing that yet. But, you know, I do. If your agent really wants to help you guys, like I will. I care whatever I got to do to help my clients. And it does make a difference. And I plead my case a lot. And I spend a lot of time driving a lot. But Mike does help me. And, you know, I guess it just makes a difference if your agent cares. No, I mean, don't take that wrong.
Oh, no, I had quite the discussion with the WSRB rep one afternoon.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of
Because I said, they pulled the water from the river right there. It was one that was up at, it was a customer that lived up at,
Republic. Republic?
Up north, the river, what kind of river? Priest River.
Oh, yeah.
I go, they live on the lake. They pull the water, the plane's coming right there. No, we can't check. I'm like,
It is hard. You know,
so,
Mike does.
yeah, that was quite a discussion we had.
Yeah, they don't.
I lost, but I let my
I'm actually your
opinion be
neighbor.
known.
I'm actually your neighbor,
Oh,
and you don't know me, but I have no problem getting insurance.
well,
So
so.
you're his neighbor.
Oh, his neighbor?
You know?
Oh, you're my neighbor?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking to her.
No, I live in Real Canyon, so I live in Real Canyon, so I'm right around the corner.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
no problem with country. So
Oh, okay.
they scoop me right up like nothing.
Yeah, we come out, I just wanna say, we come out and see people, right? We get photos ourselves, so when you're talking about people sending in photos, we go to people. We meet with you in person, we get to all four sides, defensible space, they wanna see all four sides.
How many
of the
crawl
property.
spaces have you found under?
A few,
I bet.
a few, you know, and then we do take consideration if you're on a body of water. We have pictures of our property up in the Priest River area. We send pictures of the lake on the water and that helps. We get all four sides, so we come out and see it. I think we have a common sense approach. Not every broker goes out to see people. And it's not for like a sales plug, but you can get these policies. You just have to have an advocate, get the pictures, and get it through underwriting. And that's what we do. And we're able to get these policies through that have high wild score for protection, numbers, but our underwriting has to see the documentation to get those through, and that's where we come into play as an agent.
Okay.
So.
I've talked to five other insurance companies and stuff, and they all, said, "Oh, you're in zone 9. We can't even. They didn't even want to even."
We'll take a look at that and see, because I can look up your wildfire score as well.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at that. Yeah.
I would love to come and visit you. I know a lot of your neighbors. I've chased horses all through your neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So I know it well. But you know what? If you'd like, I would love to come up and visit with you. See what we can do.
That's possible. I mean, I've got insurance now. I mean, I have it, but I've been looking for something that's. What's that?
Premiums just keep going up.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem and stuff. I mean, between my automobile and my homeowner's insurance and stuff, it's got up like $4,000 a year. I'm like, and I'm retired. I'm on a fixed income. I can't just, start pulling extra $4,000 out of my butt every time they decide they want to.
The other thing, real quick, on manufactured homes, we can insure manufactured homes for 40 years or older. The kicker with us is that it has to be on a continuous concrete foundation. Right? So we can help in those cases. Usually it's Foremost or American Modern. It goes to certain.
For those who don't know, that copies, extra copies, as if anybody wants it, well, we got from our insurance company. Pass them around, whatever, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. My wife made those up, it's not me.
I want to keep them. Anything that you should do for David? You're more than welcome to stick around, but.
See you later.
Did you hear me? No? Can you hear me?
No, the screen is flickering and it's a lot of static. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're going to mute them for a second. You can hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. I said, I appreciate you being here. I told you about a half hour. We kept you an hour and 15. You can stick around. There's a couple more things I want to cover, or you can depart for the evening.
Okay. I think I'm going to hang around, but just have my camera off. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. If we need you, we'll call for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, just a super asset that, I can't say a friend of the fire service because he's doing his job. He's not favoring us. He's just doing his job. And so are the other folks in the OIC. Are we pushing them a little bit? Absolutely. Because you guys are my neighbors of the guys out and girls out on the floor over here. There's a bigger impact coming. We come to you for EMS levy, lid lifts, fire lid lifts. We're not the only ones. That happens across the state, right? You guys have been super generous. We appreciate it. There's going to come a time where do you pay $1,000 or $100 extra to the fire department, or do you have to pay your insurance? You may want to support the fire department. And then if our levies start to fail, and I say our levies is the fire service as a whole across the state, because this is a discussion amongst fire chiefs, then we start losing money for the equipment that we buy, and it becomes a very nasty process. And I'm not here that's not a threat, that's not anything, that's just one of those things that, looking forward, there's a couple fire districts out there that they didn't suffer losses, but they came really close, and a lot of people were like, I gotta pay my insurance bill. And we get that, we understand that. Not the primary reason we're doing this. We're trying to get the right things done. Like I said, the fire chiefs are deep into the WSRB. model. I just want to make sure people understand the difference between the WSRB and the wildland. It's such a massive difference. You know, we worked, my predecessors, myself, the fire commissioners, not only at this fire district, but everywhere else, worked very hard to try to meet some of the weird stuff that they request, right? There's nothing I can do. I feel so hopeless and helpless when I see all the comments that, oh, I've lost insurance and all that. So I want to I can't get more precise to separate those. That's why I put them on two separate whiteboards. Dee, I got your text, by the way. There's no other handout than the one I'm going to hand out here shortly. You know, when talking to Representative Engel today and Senator Short, and I will talk to Representative Abell when he comes in the live visit. You know, I proposed some additional wildland items to help fire districts out. But the problem is, we'll be able to keep, I believe those proposals will keep costs down for the wildland firefighting, so they'll pay for themselves in the long run. And it'll also provide us people in the summer that can go to your house and provide mitigation information. But the problem is, even if that's implemented right now, we get zero credit for that. Zero credit for that. Now, I do have one handout, and it's something that it's an RCW that falls under the Office of the Insurance Commissioner that I always bring up, and I brought it up with our state reps because I think there is a solution immediately before us. And if you read and you can take that with you, and it basically says, you know, no person shall willfully withhold information from or knowingly give false or misleading information to the insurance commissioner, any statistical agency designated by the commissioner, any rating organization, both of those would qualify, or any insurer, any insurance company of the 100 and some that are in this state, which will affect the rates of premium chargeable under this chapter. I firmly believe, I'll leave WSRB out of it because they're at least willing to localize and work with this. I firmly believe that these rating companies and the insurance companies that use those rating companies are violating that RCW. And I've pushed and I've pushed and I've pushed. Now, you got to understand, each state agency has their own attorneys assigned to them, so they have to go through the interpretation and the processes as well. But, you know, I go to my legislators, I don't need new legislation to fix this. It's on the books. It is on the books. Is it a solve-all? Probably not. Is it a immediate stopgap to what's going on? Probably. You know, until we find a more permanent fix through legislation and other means. But that RCW is, to me, is, for one sentence, as clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. So what I want to do at this point, I don't have a whole lot left. We've talked about WSRB, we talked about wildland risk and everything else. Do you have questions about the fire district in relation to this stuff?
You know, Mike, if you want, I would take some flyers up to Loon Lake on defensible space and drop them off Friday for those people that can't print it, because it explains it all.
You guys can unmute if you want. Oh, they left.
She said everybody left at Station 2.
Oh, well, then, fine.
Well, I can still drop off, I can drop off.
So we have defensible space information at the stations.
That's what people need.
We put it on, we put it on our Facebook. I haven't put it on yet because we've had a lot of stuff on there, and I try not to overwhelm people that follow us on Facebook or our website. We have links on our website for DNR. All that stuff's on there. The link that David provided for you. They all have defensible space stuff. And yes, you don't want your house to burn down. Defensible space is it. The only thing I'll say is it's not going to help this situation right now. However, one of the working groups, because there was 2 bills passed in a proviso, right? A proviso passed
For the.
For the OIC, right, the 350? That will help pay somebody to figure out the WSRB stuff. But one of the working groups includes the Commissioner of Public Lands, the OIC, and reps. I think Senator Short said she's on it and you're on it.
Her and I are both on it.
Yeah. The chiefs, I don't know if they've appointed somebody to that yet or not. I've been in discussions, but I want to kind of stay in a more of an advisory role, so I don't know if that's going to happen here or with somebody else. And I think there's a few other people that are supposed to be on it. So.
They have a whole list of
Yeah.
appointees on the website.
Okay. So they're working, the goal is, since they're having the OIC, the Public Lands Commissioner, which oversees the DNR, the state fire chiefs and representatives from our legislature, the idea is to talk about defensible space and ways the state and or those agencies can help and promote defensible space. It is vitally important. But sometimes it feels like it's for naught because of what's going on. But the reverse side is, even with this going on, if something does break out, you're going to be protected. It is vitally important to do defensible space. Although it seems like every year I'm still cutting limbs 10 feet up. Every year, I don't know how they just appear. I don't have anything else. Does anybody here have anything? Go ahead.
When you're talking about the defensible space,
Yes.
is it, I realize it's a recommendation that you give, but is that standard? Is that like the insurance companies, do they all use the same descriptions and distances?
For the most part, yes. That seems to, the defensible space information that gets put out is definitely, it's definitely consistent amongst all the different groups that are out there.
Okay.
So I would say it's consistent. I don't know if every insurance company does. If you've read my articles, if any of you talk to me about insurance, so I'm very, problematic with WSRB. I have, close your ears, I have State Farm at my house, just down the street.
I know.
We have something in common.
Definitely not football teams.
Anyway, they don't even use WSRB's ratings. What they go by, and this is important, what they go by is fire dollar loss for the area, right? That is a metric that is tangible. So my rate with State Farm is pretty darn low compared to everybody else's because of that. WSRB won't even take into consideration a metric like that. On the wildland risk side, and I use this metric all the time too, before she left office, Commissioner Hillary Franz was running around going, hey, in Washington State, we stopped their goal was 90%, but they hit 95% of fires, they kept 95% of the fires, wildland fires, to 10 acres or less in the state. That's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good, right? That's a metric that's being left out of the wildland risk assessment. That's a combination of your fire districts across the state, the coordination with DNR that's been phenomenal, the support from the state legislature to fund that stuff. The Fort Corkscrew fire was devastating, obviously, for a lot of people. It was really devastating for this fire district because that's the first time I have lost structures since I've been here in my fifth, well, at the time it was 11 years. I know, I've been here too long, right? Those fires are going to happen, no matter where you're at in the state or especially in the West. They have them in Florida, they have them in Oklahoma, they have them in Texas. They're going to happen, but they're far and few between. So those are the things that are frustrating for us that we're trying to advocate for. What we need from you guys is to advocate for this as well. You can go on the OIC website, file a complaint saying, hey, they're leaving fire district capabilities out of this. Watch my video first, because you'll see all the different capabilities, right? that they're not counting. Let the OIC know what's happening, what your thoughts are. Let your legislatures know, talk to them. You know, we've got 2 brand new ones, although Andrew's not that out of it. He was legislative assistant for Kathy McMorris Rogers since 16, you said, right? Yeah. He's also got 14 years of firefighting experience up in Addy. So he knows what's going on. I think Representative Hunter Abel is in there. Shelley Short, Senator Short and I have talked about this for years and have you know, something needs done. So we got to keep you guys active, not just us. We need your support too, because we could be talking fire chiefs in the state. There's a lot of us, but it's a smaller group than the general population. Yes?
Yeah, I was wondering, has the OIC seen the video?
Yes.
Okay.
When after she was elected, but before she took office, I sent it to her. So my next send is to our 3 state reps from this area as well, because they haven't seen it yet. It's gotten a lot of play. They've seen it. I know WSRB has seen it, and I believe some of the risk analysis companies have seen it too. The lobbyist for the state fire chiefs has told me the insurance companies have asked him questions about this whole thing, including that video. So